The sheriff's truck was already parked crooked at the edge of the dirt road when Karen Whitmore stepped out of her SUV, hands shaking, breath short, eyes locked on the man standing quietly beside the private land since 1924 sign. He didn't look angry. That scared her more than anything. The heat of late afternoon hung over the newly built subdivision, 56 bright, identical houses lined in perfect HOA-mandated symmetry. Fresh paint. Fresh driveways. Fresh violations of property law, if the rumor was true. Karen swallowed hard. That sign wasn't here yesterday, she snapped. The man didn't move. His voice came low, steady, dangerously calm. It's been here longer than every one of your homes. His name was Marcus Hale. 42. Soft-spoken. Veteran. Landowner to the acres these homes were sitting on. And the man whose paperwork had just resurfaced after vanishing for decades. Karen turned to Sheriff Blake, whispering harshly, "Why is he here? We already approved the subdivision. He can't just walk onto HOA property." Marcus finally faced her. "Ma'am, this isn't HOA property. This is Hale land. My family's land. 100 years of it." A thick silence settled. Behind them, families peeked from porches. Cars slowed. Something was unfolding, and everyone felt it. Marcus handed a folder to the sheriff, weathered, wrapped in a leather string, pages so old they looked like they'd crumble in sunlight. Original deed. 1924, handwritten by my great-grandfather. The land was never sold. Never transferred. Never subdivided. Karen's jaw tightens. That's impossible. Our developer bought it. Marcus shook his head once. He bought forged papers. Karen's smile was brittle. "Mr. Hale, even if this was true, what exactly do you expect? We have homeowners. Families. Schools zoned. Mortgages. You can't just walk in and claim an entire neighborhood." "That's exactly what I can do," Marcus said quietly. "And what my family prepared for." A tremor rippled across her face. He wasn't bluffing. She felt it. Normal life meets a sudden disruption. 2 hours earlier, Karen had been complaining to her board about the color of mailbox posts. She was good at controlling small things. Small power. Small victories. But this was big. The board members approached now, whispering in her ear. "Did he say forged? Is that real? Are we about to lose our homes?" Karen pushed them back. "Not now." Marcus nodded toward the field behind him. "You built all this without checking the soil records. Without checking the old plats. Without checking the Hale restriction clause that's been in the county archives for a century." Sheriff Blake flipped pages. "What restriction clause?" Marcus pointed to a line written in spidery ink. "If the land is ever taken, sold, or built upon without Hale consent, all contracts become void, and full ownership reverts to the Hale bloodline." The sheriff blinked. "That's legally unusual." "It's legally binding," Marcus replied. "And you'll find the same clause in the courthouse basement. Top drawer. Rusted lock." Karen's voice cracked. "Why are we only hearing about this now?" Marcus stepped closer, not threatening, but firm. "Because for 100 years, my family planned for the day someone greedy enough would try. A trap built into the land itself. A legal snare. Nothing violent. Nothing illegal. Just waiting." The word trap spread like a chill. Subtle suspense builds. A wind swept through the homes, soft, eerie. The kind of wind that arrives in movies right before something crashes. Karen crossed her arms tightly. "We're not afraid of you. You can't threaten people just because you want money." Marcus almost laughed. "Money? Lady, I want my land back. My family was forced off it in 1931 by the same sort of people who thought paperwork didn't matter. We've been patient. He kneeled, scooping a handful of dirt.
This land remembers. Karen snapped, "Sheriff, arrest him. Trespassing. Harassment."
The sheriff lifted a hand. "Ma'am, he owns the land according to this."
"Technically, you're trespassing." A wave of panic hit the board members behind her. Phones came out. People recorded. Whispers thickened the air. Karen hissed, "This neighborhood is under HOA jurisdiction." Marcus didn't even blink.
"And the HOA is illegally built on private property." She stomped closer, primed for a fight.
"Oh, so your family trap means you get to bulldoze 56 houses? Kick out families?"
"No," Marcus said calmly. "The trap means you're going to show everyone how corrupt your HOA board is. How you approved a construction project in under 12 days. How zoning records were signed by someone who doesn't exist. And how every permit the developer submitted used the same signature yours."
Karen froze. Color drained from her face.
Marcus held her stare.
"I didn't come here to destroy anyone.
But I will expose the people who tried to steal what isn't theirs. Hidden danger, quiet but deadly."
Karen backed up half a step, gripping her phone. "You're bluffing. You don't have evidence."
Marcus's lips curled subtly.
"I didn't say I had the evidence."
He nodded toward the neighborhood.
"I said my family prepared the trap." More silence. More dread. Karen whispered, "What did your family do?" Marcus leaned in, voice soft enough only she could hear.
"Everything you built here sits on top of 100 years of proof that you were never supposed to touch this land."
Her throat tightened. What proof?" Marcus straightened. "Dig."
The sheriff inhaled sharply.
Karen's heartbeat thundered.
And Marcus, calm as a night storm, walked back toward his truck, leaving only 4 words behind him, 4 words that carried the weight of a century.
"The land will reveal everything."
By sunrise, 3 things had already happened in the Hale Ridge subdivision.
1. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. 2. A county inspector showed up without being asked.
3. Marcus Hale returned, with a folder twice as thick as the first.
The threat wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was paperwork. And paperwork can ruin an entire community.
The neighborhood buzzed with the anxious hum of garage doors opening, people standing on driveways in pajamas, whispering like they were witnessing a slow-motion disaster. Karen stepped outside, sunglasses on, jaw locked, clutching her HOA binder like a lifeline. Her perfect blonde bob didn't hide the fact she hadn't slept. Marcus approached her porch with military precision, steady steps, stillness in his eyes.
Karen forced a tight smile. "We're handling this, Mr. Hale. Legally." Marcus shrugged. "That's all I've ever wanted." The investigation begins. The county inspector, Evan Brooks, tapped his clipboard nervously. "We've reopened the land file, Ms. Whitmore. There are inconsistencies." Karen snapped, "Be specific." Marcus answered instead. 73 pages worth.
He handed her a second leather-bound packet. Inside were old photographs, old surveys, and copies of Hale documents stamped received 1924.
Evan cleared his throat. "Ms. Whitmore, did you process zoning permits personally?" Karen stiffened. "Of course. I'm the HOA president. It's my duty." Marcus raised a subtle eyebrow. "You signed a developer application for a company that dissolved in 1996. Karen blinked. "That can't be right."
But Evan nodded grimly.
"That company doesn't exist."
And the signature on the documents, he held up 2 pages, one from Karen's HOA files, one from the county's archive.
"They're identical. 2 identical. Copied." Karen's face paled. "That's impossible.
Someone forged my signature."
Marcus crossed his arms. "Who would benefit from that?" A loaded question. A surgical one. Karen's hands trembled. I don't know. But she did know.
She'd signed things too fast. Approved too much without reading. Trusted the wrong developer because he promised her a legacy neighborhood.
Marcus watched her unravel with clinical calm.
Marcus's own quiet trap.
Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't flex power. He simply laid out facts one thread at a time until the full tapestry of corruption was undeniable. He pointed to the edge of the property. You see that line of oaks? Karen nodded slowly.
My family planted those in 1924 to mark the real boundary lines.
The developer's survey ignored them.
But the original plat, he pulled out a beautiful, hand-drawn map, matches the tree line exactly.
Evan examined it. This is authentic.
And this, Marcus added, is what your surveyor submitted.
Another map. Cleaner. Modern. Wrong. Evan swallowed. A fraudulent survey could void every mortgage in this subdivision. Karen nearly collapsed. Neighbors turned against her.
A crowd was forming, neighbors with crossed arms, teary eyes, cell phones recording everything.
A mother shouted, "Are we losing our house?" A man barked, "Did you approve this illegal development?" Karen held up her hands. Everyone calmed down. Nothing is confirmed yet.
Marcus stepped forward, but his tone remained gentle.
I'm not here to hurt anyone. My family never wanted a fight.
Which is why they built a protection clause into the deed.
They knew someday land like this would be targeted. A neighbor cried, "What's going to happen to us?"
Marcus met her eyes with a softness Karen didn't have.
You'll be fine. Homeowners weren't the enemy.
The people who pushed this project through illegally are.
All eyes turned to Karen.
Her throat closed.
Quiet trap snapped shut. Evan held up yet another page. Ms. Whitmore, this signature on the environmental approval? It's yours. Karen squinted. I didn't sign that. I don't even know what that form is.
Marcus's gaze sharpened. You really should know, since it's the only document that allowed construction to start without a soil toxicity review.
Karen froze. So did Evan. Soil toxicity? Evan whispered. Marcus nodded, tapping the ground.
This land was once part of a military training field.
My grandfather fenced off the back acres after finding unexploded shell casings in 1958. A collective gasp. Karen's knees buckled. You're lying. There's no way. Marcus slid a photograph from the 60s. His father, as a boy, holding a rusted artillery shell. Evan looked sick. Oh God. If that's true, we need a hazard inspection immediately. Karen grabbed Evan's arm. Don't you dare shut down this neighborhood. You will destroy lives. Marcus spoke softly. Not me. Your paperwork. The conspiracy widens. Evan kept reading.
Ms. Whitmore, the developer listed you as an official consultant.
That means your approval signatures weren't optional, they were essential. Karen shook her head violently. No, I never agreed to that. Marcus stepped closer. You didn't read the contract you signed. Page 9. Fine print. It even gives them permission to use your digital signature. Karen's voice cracked. I trusted them. Marcus lowered his voice. My family trusted no one. That's why the trap exists. Evan swallowed hard. We need to contact the state. Maybe federal authorities. Karen felt everything closing around her. The neighbors. The truth. The sheriff quietly approaching. Marcus's steady, unwavering presence. She whispered, almost pleading. What do you want from me? Marcus answered with chilling simplicity. The truth. All of it. Evidence gathered. Stakes rising.
By mid-afternoon, Evan, the sheriff, and a dozen neighbors were digging near the oak line Marcus had pointed out.
It didn't take long.
They uncovered metal fragments,
Old fencing.
rusted casings. The land told its story exactly as Marcus predicted. Karen watched everything crumble, her authority, her control, her image, while Marcus stood like a quiet sentinel.
Evan finally turned to him. "Mr. Hale, you were right." Marcus nodded once. "I had to be." Karen stepped backward, whispering, "This wasn't supposed to happen."
Marcus glanced at her, expression unreadable. "Then maybe you shouldn't have built 56 homes on land that wasn't yours." Karen's breath hitched.
The quiet trap had sprung.
And Chapter 3's storm was coming. The HOA hall was packed so tightly that people stood shoulder to shoulder, sweating under the fluorescent lights, waiting for the explosion everyone knew was coming. At the front of the room, Karen Whitmore gripped the podium like she was holding onto the last piece of her sinking ship, while Marcus Hale stood calmly in the aisle, a folder tucked under his arm like a weapon.
Phones were up. News crews lingered by the door.
The county inspector sat in the front row with a stack of confirmed violations. The whole neighborhood had come to witness Karen's reckoning.
And she knew it.
The meeting begins in fire.
Karen forced herself to speak, voice trembling but loud enough for the microphone. "Everyone, thank you for coming on such short notice.
I want to assure you, the situation with Mr. Hale is..." A voice shouted from the crowd.
"You lied to us." Another joined. "You knew the permits were fake."
Karen slammed her hand on the podium.
"Quiet. Everyone stay calm. I did not lie. I am the victim of forged documents."
Marcus spoke for the first time, and the room instantly hushed. "You signed 37 approvals without reading them. You pushed the developer's project through in record time. And when my deed resurfaced, your first instinct was to call the sheriff on me."
People murmured. Karen's face flushed red.
"I didn't know the land was yours." Marcus's tone stayed even.
"You didn't check if the land was mine. Or anyone's."
Karen stared at him like she wished she could erase him from the room.
Public exposure moment. Inspector Evan Brooks stood. "We completed the investigation this morning." He opened a binder.
Every permit in this subdivision was approved with invalid signatures, missing disclosures, fraudulent environmental clearance, and a non-existent developer entity.
Gasps filled the room.
And, he added, Ms. Whitmore's digital signature was used on documents she legally should have reviewed in person.
Karen stumbled back from the podium. "That is not my fault."
But Evan wasn't finished.
He lifted a black and white photo.
It showed a line of rusted munition casings dug from the soil behind Oak Lane.
This land was never inspected. It should have been declared restricted access decades ago.
The room erupted in a wave of panic.
Karen's voice cracked. I didn't know.
I trusted the developer."
Marcus stepped into the center aisle. "I didn't come here to destroy this neighborhood.
I came to reclaim what belongs to the Hale bloodline. What my family protected for 100 years. He turned to the crowd. My grandfather predicted someone would eventually try to steal this land. That's why he filed a trap, the clause that returns ownership to us if the land is ever taken without consent."
People whispered. Phones recorded. Karen grabbed the mic, shrieking. "You can't do that. You can't just take everything from us."
Marcus met her eyes, voice soft but lethal.
"I'm not taking anything from the homeowners. I'm taking it back from the people who stole it." Then he said it. "You."
The word landed like a gunshot.
Emotional explosion.
Karen slammed her fist onto the podium.
"You think you can come in here and pretend you're the victim? The city approved this project. The bank approved it. Everyone approved it." Marcus's jaw tightened. "No. They stamped whatever you passed to them.
And you passed it too fast, too quietly, and without oversight." Karen's mask shattered.
"You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me get ripped apart?" Marcus stepped closer. No.
But I am enjoying the truth finally speaking.
Karen's breath shook.
A neighbor stood up, an older man with trembling hands.
My wife, she's pregnant. We put everything we had into our home. Are we losing it? Marcus turned to him with genuine empathy. No, sir. You won't lose anything.
Then he pointed at Karen.
But she will. Karen let out a strangled sound. The evidence drop, the knockout.
Marcus reached into his folder and placed a single sheet on the podium.
A photocopy. A county-stamped letter. Dated 1 year earlier. Evan blinked. What is that? Marcus answered.
The Hale deed notification. The one that states this land was under unresolved ownership. The one that legally required the HOA board to halt development until a hearing.
Evan read it.
His face went white.
Karen whispered, horrified. I never saw that.
Marcus shook his head.
Yes, you did. It was mailed directly to you. You signed for it. He placed the UPS receipt beside it. Karen froze.
Her legs nearly gave out.
Neighbors gasped.
Camera shutters clicked. The oxygen left the room.
Karen stammered, I don't remember.
Marcus leaned in, speaking the kill shot calmly.
You ignored the trap.
Karen collapsed in her chair, fingers shaking. Her board members pushed away from her like she was radioactive.
Sheriff Blake stepped forward. Ms. Whitmore.
I'm placing you under arrest for falsification of county documents, reckless endangerment, and obstruction of land records.
The room exploded. Karen screamed as the cuffs went on. You can't do this. This is MY neighborhood. Mine. Marcus watched in silence. The sudden action twist.
Before the sheriff could lead her away,
Karen lunged. Not at Marcus. Not at the sheriff.
She dove for the side door, crashing through chairs and sprinting outside. The sheriff chased her.
Neighbors screamed. Evan shouted into his radio.
Marcus followed, calm but fast. Karen ran across the field toward the fenced-off land where the metal casings had been dug up.
Karen! Stop, the sheriff yelled. She didn't stop. She stepped on an old buried fence post. It snapped. She fell hard.
And her hand landed on something metallic beneath the dirt.
A hollow clink. Evan froze. Don't move. That could be.
A small rusted shell fragment protruded from the soil. Karen stared at it, horrified.
Marcus approached, breath steady. You see now? My family didn't make the danger. They warned about it. You ignored every warning. Karen shook violently, face streaked with dirt and tears.
The sheriff lifted her up carefully.
The neighborhood watched from a distance, realization settling like a cold fog. Marcus Hale wasn't the threat. Karen was.
The subdivision was silent the next morning, too silent.
Not the peaceful kind. The heavy, waiting kind.
The kind that comes after an earthquake, when everyone steps outside to see what survived.
Karen Whitmore was gone. Taken into county custody just before dawn.
But the damage she left behind still clung to the neighborhood like smoke. Families lined the sidewalks, clutching coffee mugs, exchanging glances that carried fear, relief, confusion, every emotion tangled together. And standing at the edge of the cul-de-sac was Marcus Hale.
Not triumphant. Not smug. Just tired.
A century-long burden had landed fully on his shoulders.
Community resolution begins. Inspector Evan Brooks approached him with a stack of papers.
Mr. Hale, he began, after everything we've reviewed, the county is prepared to restore your family's ownership. Legally, the land belongs to you.
Neighbors stared, breath held. Marcus nodded slowly. I never wanted to take anything from these people. Evan exhaled. And you won't have to.
A temporary protective order allows homeowners to stay until we determine the safest long-term plan. But the subdivision's HOA is dissolved. People whispered in shock. The HOA hadn't just collapsed. It had been erased. Sheriff Blake stood nearby, arms crossed. Karen admitted she skipped procedures. Said the developer promised her name on a plaque. That's why she rushed everything. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. A plaque. 56 families nearly destroyed for a plaque. Marcus faces the community. Mothers and fathers slowly approached him, careful, unsure. The older man from the meeting, the one whose pregnant wife was due any day, cleared his throat. Mr. Hale, we didn't know. We didn't know any of this. Marcus nodded. I know you didn't. A young woman stepped forward. If we'd known this land was yours, your family's, we wouldn't have moved here. We're not those people. Marcus smiled faintly. I never blamed any of you. A pause fell, long, fragile. Then the older man asked the question everyone feared. What happens to our homes? Marcus's chest rose slowly. We figure it out together. The crowd eased, shoulders dropping, breaths letting go. But something else lingered beneath the calm. Something thorny. Something unsaid. The 100-year trap isn't over. Evan pulled Marcus aside. There's one more thing you need to see. He handed Marcus a dusty envelope, yellowed with age, sealed with a wax imprint. Hale. Found it in the courthouse basement, Evan explained. Filed the same day as the original deed. Looks like your great-grandfather left instructions. Marcus's pulse tightened. He broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten in looping cursive. Marcus read it silently. Evan watched him pale. What does it say? Marcus folded the letter carefully, voice low. It says the trap wasn't meant for one person. He swallowed. It was meant for a group. Evan frowned. What group? Marcus didn't answer. Not yet. A quiet goodbye to the past. Later that afternoon, Marcus walked the tree line where the oak markers stood tall and ancient. He traced his fingers along the bark. His grandfather had planted these. His father had tended them. And now he was the one holding the last piece of a century-old protection plan. Karen had triggered the trap. But she wasn't the target. His family hadn't designed a trap out of vengeance. They'd designed it out of fear. Fear of something bigger than one corrupt HOA president. Something that once tried to seize this land and would likely try again. Marcus looked out over the rows of houses. Kids playing. Dogs running. Sprinklers ticking across perfectly green lawns. Life had returned to normal. But beneath the soil. Beneath the paperwork. Beneath the century of silence. Something still waited. Karen's final confession. That evening, Sheriff Blake called Marcus. Karen talked, the sheriff said. Says the developer wasn't the mastermind. Claims there's a group buying old southern land, offering huge cash, pushing projects through without oversight. Marcus's eyes narrowed. What group? The sheriff hesitated. She didn't know the name. Only that they always target land owned by black families. Land with old deeds. Land easy to manipulate. Marcus felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. The old letter in his pocket grew heavier. Sheriff, he said quietly, this isn't new. My great-grandfather wrote about them. The sheriff swallowed. You're saying they've been around for 100 years? Or longer? A long silence. Be careful, Marcus, the sheriff said softly. People like that don't stop. The chilling final hint. That night, Marcus stood in the center of the subdivision. The moon hung low. The new houses cast long, eerie shadows. He unfolded the old letter again. One line glared back at him. If ever they return, the land will reveal their mark. Marcus crouched, brushing dirt from the edge of a concrete foundation.
Something caught the moonlight.
A metal tag, thin, buried, stamped deep into the concrete slab during construction. He pulled it free with a slow, sinking dread.
A company logo. A symbol. A circle with 3 intersecting lines.
Marcus's breath left him.
Not the developer's company. Not the county. Not the HOA.
A symbol his great-grandfather had drawn in that same letter warning future generations to watch for it. The same mark those land thieves used in 1924. Marcus stared at it in the pale moonlight. "They're back," he whispered. Somewhere in the quiet neighborhood, a porch light flicked on.
A shadow moved in a window.
A cold wind slipped through the trees.
And the Hale land,
100 years protected, felt suddenly hunted again.